And I don't think I've ever said this.
Donald Trump genuinely thinks he won the 2020 election, and that means he has to have some sort of delusional narcissism, and it's pathological. And rather than Dr. Phil diagnosing Donald Trump with that, he spends the entire interview praising him, rather than pointing out that Donald Trump claimed the 2012 Emmys were rigged. He claimed the 2016 Iowa caucuses were rigged. When Trump University lost court cases, he claimed those were rigged. He claimed the 2016 election was rigged, and then he created a committee to investigate election fraud, found nothing, and quietly disbanded it. Then he called the 2020 election rigged, and then he called his court cases rigged. So I'm sorry, but I don't quite believe this idea that everything is rigged against Donald Trump, and I think Donald Trump knows the 2020 election was not rigged, because everybody around him, everybody in his cabinet kept telling him there was not enough election fraud, there was zero election fraud, and the election will not be overturned, but Donald Trump kept trying. But let's break down some more of these clips.
It's nice to lead a life of no pressure whatsoever. Corruption, surrounded by corrupt judges and corrupt politicians. Other than that, there's no pressure.
Have you guys ever heard that phrase that goes something like, if you ran into an asshole in the morning, then you simply ran into an asshole, but if you ran into assholes all day, then that means you're the asshole? This reminds me of Donald Trump. He calls everything around him corrupt. These corrupt judges, corrupt institutions, corrupt administration, but maybe it might be the case that Donald Trump, the convicted felon, is actually the corrupt one. But this is where things began to get weird in this interview. I was watching it live and I also noticed this, but MeidasTouch points out this keeps happening with every Trump propaganda interview. These edits are bizarre, and throughout this next clip you'll notice certain edits that are a little bit rough. They cut Trump off while he's speaking, they cut around his gaffes or maybe something wild that he said, and this has been a pattern with a lot of Trump interviews. He went on Sean Hannity last night, there were cuts. He went on Fox and Friends last weekend, there were cuts. Everybody is cutting around his gaffes and then focusing in on President Biden's when he has a small one, and even slowing down videos of him and cutting out key context like the video of him in Normandy today. But watch this weirdly edited clip.
You'd be the first one to
look at this map that
So obviously something was cut out there. The editing is very off. And throughout the interview, it becomes increasingly obvious that Dr. Phil is a total Trump sycophant and a political hack. I mean, maybe he's good at the dramatic psychology TV shows on the side, but when it comes to politics, do not trust this guy. He throws Donald Trump softball questions. He cuts out answers when they're bad. And he even praises Donald Trump, saying that he's got thick skin, he's a billionaire. Watch this clip. All right, a few things. First of all, I don't think Donald Trump could define the word communism if his life depended on it. I think he's throwing out buzzwords trying to appeal to the right people in his fan base. But secondly, Donald Trump's peace plan for Ukraine is absolutely awful. It is way worse than whatever President Biden is doing right now. Now, I think President Biden should have been stronger off the bat and given Ukraine all the equipment they needed, but Donald Trump's plan to cede Ukrainian land to Russia in order to negotiate a peace deal because he thinks he's this master negotiator is naive, and it shows a fundamental lack of understanding of the way that Russia works. Russia has a long history of starting wars, pausing those wars when it's convenient and when it serves their interest, then reigniting those wars down the road after they've rearmed. They did this with Georgia in 2008. They did it with Crimea in 2014. They relaunched that war in 2022 with Ukraine, and all Donald Trump would be doing would be kicking the can down the road to another administration when Russia inevitably relaunches the war for the Ukrainian territory. So Donald Trump's plan is awful. Do not listen to this guy on foreign policy or domestic policy. He's underqualified. He has no clue what he's talking about and thinks he can negotiate his way out of every situation. Dr. Phil was just practicing all of these questions in front of a mirror and was thinking, this is my big chance to interview Donald Trump. He is loving this. He is not kissing the ring. He is sucking the ring off of Donald Trump's finger, as I always say. But Donald Trump then began talking about revenge, as he always does.
Well, revenge, sometimes it can.
And this is the kind of political doublespeak we see from Donald Trump all the time, where he'll say something wild but leave just enough room for a little bit of plausible deniability so you don't know if he actually said that. Like with his bloodbath comment, he uses apocalyptic rhetoric. In this case, he said sometimes revenge can be justified. So he didn't outright say he's going to persecute or prosecute his political opponents, but he is implying it. He is hinting at it. He is laying the groundwork by saying, well, sometimes revenge is justified. Either way, Donald Trump has been campaigning really hard, doing a lot of interviews almost every day now, and we're starting to hear the same talking points over and over, but I'm going to keep debunking his lies as he goes so he's not spewing them out into the world with no pushback. If you enjoy the video and appreciate what I do, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment, and have a great day.